that technology that fed our products so far is now available to everyone's use in 170 countries and territories. So I'm really keen to see what the world, people in those 170 countries, will create with it.
Welcome to the Redefine Growth podcast, which is all about company growth and making more impact on people and planet. Today is a super exciting episode because we're going to talk about Gemini and why it's better than GPT, and how it's positively impact people and planet, and how businesses are using it at this point to their benefit. And Anouk, I'm super excited to have you here. Can you give us an introduction of yourself, please?
Hey Bart, super excited to be here. Anouk Muis, work at Google in our customer engineering, leading one of our customer engineering teams. In practice, that means that I help our customers across industries to use artificial intelligence and our cloud technology to their benefit and helping them grow. Met you a number of months ago at the Sprints and Sneakers Festival. Well, you've seen there that in my free time, I love to learn by day, but I love a party at night. And other than that, based here in Amsterdam, just like yourself. And when I'm not at work, love to be out on the ocean kite surfing.
Can you give us a glimpse into Google's vision on AI and how it's going to change what we're doing right now?
Yeah, of course. So Google's mission is to organize the world's data and make it universally accessible and useful for everyone. Now, we celebrated our 25th birthday as a company this year.
Congrats.
And if you think about how much data there was and how much data we produced 25 years ago compared to now, that's a monumental difference. On YouTube alone, we're producing 750,000 hours of content every day. That's enough to watch every day for 30 years. So you can imagine that mission of organizing all that data has become a lot more complex as well over the years. And I think AI is going to play a pivotal role in achieving that mission in this new world. And what we're trying to do with AI is make it as helpful and useful as possible for societies, for businesses, for people. And if we look at what that means, if you look at society, like one of the things that came out in the past weeks was GraphCast, which is a model that predicts weather patterns, for example. It's been more accurate, according to some scientists, than any of the meteorological institutes. And what that means is that we can predict tornadoes, for example, much more, like up to 6 days, 7 days more in advance. And that means being able to evacuate, predict, but also things like AlphaFold, which is came out from our DeepMind organization. It's effectively a model that allows us to predict how proteins fold. Now, that has huge implications for the development of medication. It's used by over 1 million biologists across the world. So there's these huge societal impacts, I think, that AI can have. But if we look at businesses, what we'll talk about more today, Gemini and its multimodal capabilities are going to allow you to really take in, for example, the TikTok content that your users create, really understanding them, combining that with other input like text and user events and spend patterns, etc. So for businesses, I think it's going to be it's going to bring real opportunities to be more successful. And for people, just you and me, day to day, I think there's a lot of things. We were a couple of colleagues of mine were in the US last week at a semiconductor conference, and we had our Prime Minister Mark Rutte take his first Waymo ride. So think of driverless cars, etc. They're really going to change the landscape in the world out there. But even more mundane things. I don't know if you've ever been on a holiday and had your luggage lost or a delayed flight. Yeah. It's frustrating, huh? And you sort of have to, happened to me recently, and you have to write that email. You know the airline's going to say no a couple of times first. And things like large language models and AI now help me on the go, like in my Uber back home from Schiphol, allows me to write that whole letter for me. If I take a holiday picture and want that cool Instagram shots, there's 50 other tourists in there. We have products like Magic Eraser that take them out. So I think that sort of shows you from little things in daily life and making that easier to solving big societal problems is where our vision is of how AI is going to change the world and be helpful to everyone everywhere.
Wow, super interesting. And can you explain a bit more how that large language model of Google differentiates itself from GPT-4 or maybe even 5 in the future?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And I think what you will have seen in the launch post and in the blog post is Gemini is the first model that's built multimodal from the ground up. Now, that probably doesn't mean a lot to our listeners. So to explain that a little bit further, I think you recently became a father for the second time. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, she's 7 weeks old, Charlie. So.
Fantastic. So I want to take Charlie as an example. As a newborn, the way Charlie is experiencing the world now, she's hearing things, she's seeing things, she's smelling things, tasting things. And that's all sort of this kaleidoscopic symphony of input that she's using to understand the world and to make connections between those different things. And for a newborn, there is no such thing as I'm learning eye language or I'm learning sound language. And if you compare that to traditional classroom learning, you might be using vocabulary flashcards in French class in the first hour, and then you go to maths class and you learn equations on a chalkboard, and then next you might be in history. And there's this timeline on the wall of historic events, but it's very compartmentalized, and we're learning these things on their own, boxed off, and it's really only our own intuition that maybe brings them together. If we think about that, it's almost like learning the words to a song that you've never had a melody to. And every model out there so far has learned in these compartmentalized modalities. So
is that all text-based? Is that what?
So one modality like text can be a modality, but it can also be video or audio. But every model out there up until now was trained on those specific boxes, the way we do classroom learning.
It's isolated.
Isolated, exactly. Yeah. And then stitched together at the top. It allows sort of text to image, for example. You will have played around with examples of that already, but it didn't learn that way. Now, Gemini has learned like Charlie is learning right now at 7 weeks old. And what it allows that to do is really create that understanding between those modalities and make sense of that and make connections and interactions between it. So if you think about what that means in the context of redefining growth and understanding, for example, your consumers or your users, whatever the business is that you're in, it means that I can now watch macro trends on in social listening on platforms like TikTok or Instagram, but combine that with events and spending patterns and combine that with text and have a much better understanding of what is actually happening in the consumer's mind or understand the intentions behind that. And so because of that reason and that differentiator, Gemini is really the most powerful model out there today.
If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. There will be more interesting stuff coming. I think there are quite some people that are also a little bit scared about the power of AI. And I'm eager to know your opinion about it, because I think the power is even way bigger than we know right now. And I think Google has been working on it for so long, and they might even have been scared to launch it a bit, maybe because of the power. And how do you look at that? And should we be scared of it, or what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one that has been in the public eye since the last year a lot. And I'm having conversations about it over coffee and in the pub now. But I think it's important to realize that Google has been an AI first company for over 8 years now. In 2017, Google Research launched a paper, Attention is All You Need, a research paper. And that introduced transformers. And transformers are really sort of the overarching umbrella technology that feeds every generative AI out there, whether it's ChatGPT, Midjourney, Bart, as well as Gemini. And a year later, we had AlphaFold, the protein folding I just told you about. And we saw how quick that uptake was and the huge use cases that it was leveraged on, like medicine development. We realized very quickly that we wanted to do two things. We want to be bold and responsible. And that's really important. And by bold, we mean really that 10x thinking that Google is known for, and having these societal breakthroughs. But it also has to be responsible. And in 2018, we set out and published a number of AI policies that you can read online that include things like we want AI to be socially beneficial. We want to avoid and reduce unfair bias. We want to make sure that safety and security are at the forefront. And with every new engineering challenge, and Gemini was a monumental engineering challenge, super exciting on one hand, but it also introduces new challenges. So you can think about, when we talk about that multimodality, text in itself can be innocuous and an image in itself can be innocuous. But when you bring the two together, it can suddenly be harmful content, for example. And so we had to deal with those questions in building Gemini and in building all our other AI solutions. And what we do, we have really strong techniques. We work with the Allen Institute for AI, for example. We have benchmarking testing where we take 100,000 toxicity prompts that are produced by external experts at that institute. We start testing and then we use classifiers and filters to make sure that the output follows the policies that we set out on that. And in addition to that, Google works with governments, experts in the field, other companies to make sure that we have regulation around AI to ensure that we fix that mission where it's really beneficial and useful for everyone out there.
Interesting. And do you think it's a role of the bigger companies or the government to make sure that we use it in a proper way?
It's that responsibility. We truly believe that regulation is a big part of the puzzle, and that's why we, as a big company, take an active role, a proactive role in helping define that and do that. That's also why you'll see that I think as an individual, not speaking for Google, when we saw GPT come out, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so exciting. We have this technology. Why aren't we going live? But at the same time, I'm seeing the scale it's rolling out at and the impact it has. Yeah. So I'm actually very proud that we're taking that responsible approach and that we're thinking about safety and security and benefit first and make responsible decisions in every launch and every development and every step of the process.
Yeah, you were talking about the societal impact AI can make, and obviously the podcast is called Redefine Growth, where together with our clients, we call them partners, we try to make a positive impact. So it's not only about profit, but also making a positive impact on people and planet. And can you tell me a bit more about your vision and Google's vision on how AI can contribute to a more sustainable future?
Absolutely. And it's a very valid question. And I think there's three big points that are important here. So first, AI is resource intensive, and that's a concern for many. So we're really proud at Google to be the greenest cloud on the planet. That means that we run 100% of our operations and data centers on renewable energy. And that's not just carbon credits, that's actually investment in the projects as well. So solar, wind energy, etc. The second one is about, if we think about how we're deploying AI, it's the software and the hardware. With Gemini, we've made new scientific breakthroughs on on model parallelisms, and I don't want to go too academic here, but it basically means that we can run those vast amounts of data that you're getting, that we're producing every day ourselves on all platforms, that we can analyze those and use those in learning more efficiently. That's the software side, but that also has a hardware side. So at Google, we create our own TPUs, and those are basically, think of them as the computing chips that are designed specifically for artificial intelligence. And so last week we launched Gemini. We also launched the TPU V5P. I forgive all listeners that forget that name instantly, but it means it's faster. So it's going to allow you to do more groundbreaking projects. It's more scalable, but it's also more efficient, and that means less needy on the resources side. So that's how we run our operations, what we do in them. And then the third thing is the projects that we can achieve with AI. And the cool thing about building state-of-the-art technology is you let it out in the world and we see what our partners do with it. But some of the projects that I'd love to highlight is the Rainforest Connection, for example. They are an organization, an NGO that works against deforestation and conservation of the Amazon rainforest. And they've built these huge, like if you're in their offices, they've built these huge devices that look a bit like big artificial flowers, and they put them on the tree canopies in the Amazon forest, and they listen to audio signals, and they can do that in a radius of 7 kilometers, which is an enormous spread. And that amount of audio data we were never able to analyze before AI. But what we can do now is two things. Like on one hand, they're actually able to identify species, etc., and get real research data on the populations that live, etc. But it can also very practically identify gunshots, which can be an indication of poaching, or chainsaws, which is an indication of deforestation, and act upon that straight away, like very pointed in a way that we weren't able before. I think another one closer to home is a company we partner with a lot called Something, some as in SUM. And it was founded by 3 young guys that used to, I'm sure you've been here. Have you ever had this initiative where it's like, oh, plant a tree if you do so and so,
sure,
and then it's like, here, Bart, here's your certificate. They had as well, and lo and behold, they sort of went down the project behind it, and no tree was planted. And they decided they wanted to do something about it. And what they set up is it's a similar intent, like they want to rebuild the planet. And they're supporting a number of projects, but they want to make sure that if a company works with them to set up a program like this, they also have to prove that that project is actually realized. And they're using artificial intelligence to make that contract viable and like prove that. So they're building kelp forests on the ocean floor, for example, that helps regrow coral, etc. And then using imaging and satellite imaging to see what is the actual impact so far. Same with cleaning up plastic from beaches around the coast. Like if we do that on the other side of the world, it's hard to track it, but they actually measure and test using AI, like how many kilos for a certain projects were cleaned up. So I think those types of projects, we see AI making a real impact to the planet and to sustainability. So it's on one hand, making sure that we're not overusing, and on the other hand, giving back to the planet with new possibilities. And I think the last thing I want to share with you, redefining growth, for you and for a lot of the listeners, bigger is better, right? That is something that I really want to demystify in or debunk in the context of AI. I see a lot of excitement on my LinkedIn feed and online when we go from GPT 3.5 to GPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo. And there's so many models out there. And it's similar with Gemini, comes in 3 sizes now. But I think what's really important to realize as we're learning about AI and adopting it, that in this world, bigger isn't necessarily better. And if you want to set up a chatbot for your customers to interact and buy and get personalized recommendations on the next products they will love, you're going to find that a small model is going to do perfectly well at that. Like, it's going to absolutely outperform anything you've seen before. You don't need a model that can write a 300-page thesis on quantum physics to solve that problem. So that's another call to action I would give to the world out there, is like, educate yourself on what different models excel at and pick the right one to keep that aspect in mind.
And are you saying that a smaller language might even outperform a bigger language then? Or how do you define small and big in this case?
Yeah, I think if we think about those modalities, like having this multi-model, like Charlie-like thinking solution now is fantastic if I want to understand video content combined with text and et cetera. But a very practical example that I see a lot of my customers use today is in FAQs. Like, FAQs are kind of horrible in the way we've used them in the past 10 years. If I speak from a consumer perspective, I want to speak to someone, I want an answer to my question, and I'm sent to this static page, and I have to scroll through.
Used to be good for Google search in the past.
Fair enough.
So we used it for and to present your unique buying proposition, that's etc. But definitely not the most.
It's definitely not the place to get your questions answered. And I think for those types of use cases, what you can do now, and that is, in a way, still text only. You need a very small model that's perfect at that. You're going to upload 60 documents that tell me everything about sprints and sneakers. And within a day, I'll have a chatbot where I, as a consumer, can come and with any question I have about sprints and sneakers and get an appropriate answer. Now, sure, you're free to use a huge model for that, but it's going to cost you more. It's not going to outperform the small model. You only need something very tiny, because from an AI perspective, that is not a complex task. Yeah. So I think educating yourself, and that's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's going to help the planet.
It's funny, I had to think about a friend of mine. He's a shrink, and he had this sign that he got from his sister and says, specialism is knowing more about less. So I think that's kind of what he's saying. So if you're a customer support employee and you're trying to help someone with a specific question around some specific area, you don't need to know anything about quantum physica and etc. Like you're saying, because that's actually uses in that situation. So it's interesting to understand. I like how you make it more practical. So, and I think that's also something that it's interesting to know more about. Is there's so much talk about AI and the possibilities and the big possibilities, and how do business leaders use the power of AI really practically in their marketing, in their data analytics? So how we can make it as practical as possible and start using it tomorrow?
Yep, absolutely. I think I love that you start with and start using it tomorrow, because what I'm seeing, I truly believe that AI can level the field for businesses of all sizes. You don't need, you can start competing even as a smaller player if you start using this right. But what I also hear from a lot of the business leaders that I speak with is there's something uncomfortable about the shift to AI for many out there. And if there's one thing you remember from this podcast, I think as a business leader, you're not competing with AI. you're competing with marketers using AI. And so I would very much advise you to embrace this shift that is out there. And I think a very practical, the other side of that is that there's so much that if you're going to sit and wait till you have that overall view, I promise you that's going to lead to decision paralysis and you're not going to get anywhere. So if we break it down in 4 really concrete steps, I would say step 1, start educating yourself today on Gemini. Go to webinars, like play around with watch demos, play around with it, get hands-on experience. And then secondly, when it comes to not boiling that ocean, step 2 is define a business use case that's important to you. So I'll give you an example. One of the retailers I've worked with, this was around last year, we all do customer lifetime value analysis. And we tend to do that up until the point that people buy something. Now, what they saw this season last year is we're all buying our Christmas gifts now. It's going fantastic. Revenue's through the roof. Then we gift them on Christmas Day. And guess what? My mother-in-law doesn't actually like what I got her. Returns. And there's a whole bunch of returns. And they leveraged AI to get between code and text and events and pictures to identify much more closely, hey, what if we take that into the equation of defining customer lifetime value? Now, that sounds like something very small, and the opportunities are so much bigger. But that's why I say step 2 for every business leader, pick a use case that's actually painful for you, or where you really see an opportunity for growth, and see how you can apply artificial intelligence on that use case. And then from there, step 3, you're going to iterate on it. Once you've defined that, you're going to see new opportunities, but you're getting a feel for the real life effect of using tools and models like Gemini in your business. And that's important because yes, you have this enormously powerful tool at your disposal as of today, which is super exciting. You can develop and build with it, but all your competitors have that too. So don't stop thinking. Don't see it as a magic bullet where you can stop thinking and sit back. It's still about thinking, what are the USPs of my offering? What are the specific problems that I'm dealing with? And how do I apply this technology on that problem? So don't try and go everywhere. Pick that use case and build. And then lastly, I would say train your teams on things like Gemini and AI broader. And that is your data science teams, but also your marketeers. Because you want both the business side and the technical side to simultaneously grab that understanding and spar and iterate on what can this mean for our business. And activating, training your teams doesn't mean have an extra tab open while you're doing your job that you were doing yesterday and occasionally ask a question to a GPT or a Bart. It means train them, the technical side, to really implement this into your processes and your operations, and have the marketing team and the business teams really understand the implications of what this can mean and let them be creative with it. And I think the last thing I'll add is embrace it. Don't be afraid of this AI shift, because the other side of the reality is you have been using artificial intelligence and large language models since 2015 in our ads products, in our bidding solutions, you've been working with this in the YouTube algorithms. It's just that today we're offering the technology that powered all those things like broad match to your own organization. And you can now start thinking, what's my USP? How can I leverage this power to accelerate?
I love it. If I look at Sprints and Sneakers, I think we have quite a learning culture. And you said Google has been an AI first company for quite a while. I don't think we're that long, but we've been looking at it for quite a while. And and also try to include in our learning programs. And now I'm talking about it. I think it should even be included in your job description, because what's in there, then there also goes the focus, right? So and what I was saying at the festival is most of the people know the 10,000 hour rule to become the best 1% in some field. But not that many people know the 100-hour rule. And if you spend 18 minutes a day and spending on AI, you'll be in the top 5%. And I love how you say that it's not that you're competing with it, but you should use it in your advantage to stay ahead. Because especially in our world, as marketeers, data analysis, we cannot ignore it. And just to play around, I love to play around with it and mess around with it. So it's really nice to see. So tomorrow, people should start using it and go for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I love your 100-hour rule, by the way. I hadn't heard that one before the festival when I saw you deliver that message. And I've been stealing it ever since. So thanks for that. Completely agree. I think if we look at the patterns, and you know the research in this in the space of growth hacking, consumer expectations, consumers become more demanding, consumer behavior becomes less predictable, and I think it's really about adapting and embracing the new ways we can analyze data, but also create captivating, hyper personalized content, etc. It's that AI that's gonna fit and make you successful in this more demanding space. So get everyone trained up, get everyone educated, and I'm super pumped to see what all your partners and all our customers will build with it.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great example how we can provide more value to our clients, because we're better at understanding them and personalize it and providing the right value at the right time via the right channel. So that's I really think we should focus on. Do you have an example of a company that's really leveraging the power of AI at this point? Because you had some amazing examples of the sustainability. And is there also an example of a company that you know that is really benefits the power of AI at this point?
Yeah, and I think it's one customer in mind. They're a retailer in clothing, and they've been really early adopters on the AI journey, and where you see huge improvements already is first for the whole company to be able to analyze, like, how is a campaign performing, for example. Like, that used to be the data analyst that did that, but with text to code models, we can actually have people ask questions in natural language, like, how many pens have I sold last quarter? We don't need a full process for that anymore. So that's one. The other thing that I think will resonate to a lot of e-commerce businesses and retailers was the enormous budgets they had to spend on photo shoots. With every item that came in, a new, like, you get the studio, you get the models, you get being able to generate that, now use image generation, etc. But now with Gemini, where we really have that multimodal understanding, and that being able to, and I think that really explains this example, how it connects the dots between those different text and image and video, etc. We're working on solutions where you can even customize products. So I was looking for a winter coat the other day, and I got on his website, and it was exactly the coat I wanted, but it was double-breasted, and I wanted a single row of buttons. And we're now working on use cases where I can just say, as a customer, and I'm cold, I need a coat, hey, I want this coat, but add a pocket here, and I want it to be single-breasted. And you can just sort of define that on the fly, see how it looks on me. I think if we, it's really about how creative we can get. But that was an example where I was like, wow, these guys and gals are at the forefront of thinking how we can creatively bring new experiences to our products. And I think that's also where really the key is, bringing that human creativity to what this technology can bring.
Amazing. Yeah, I think these stock photo platforms should be really worried. And I sometimes do a keynote and I show them some pictures and ask them which picture was created with AI, and they were all created with AI. So it's amazing the quality, and if you learn a little bit about it, you can really generate an amazing output. And I'm really looking forward also to have almost every company create Netflix quality content, because that is also the power that we're looking at, because it's so much easier to generate high quality content and looking ahead to the future. So can you give us a sneak peek on what you're seeing from the Google side and your personal view on the future of AI and where it's going through?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that too. Although I have to say, when I'm at my sofa at night, now I can't pick what I want to watch on Netflix. So when we all produce that kind of content, it's going to be real.
It's good
I'm
for YouTube.
I'm going to be in real trouble.
I always said, like, I think YouTube is one of the biggest competitors of Netflix and all these HBO, other platforms, because they spending so much money on creating the content, while YouTube has so many creators. And you were talking about the number of content that's being produced, which is insane. So I'm really looking forward to using YouTube. YouTube is my favorite go-to channel.
You and me both, Bart. Yeah, and I think that's exactly, you asked for a sneak peek. So I think, to your point, we have the world creating at YouTube. We launched Gemini last week in our Google products. Today, it is being launched for our enterprise customers and in public preview in the Google Cloud platform, meaning that that technology that fed our products so far is now available to everyone's use in 170 countries and territories. So I'm really keen to see what the world, people in those 170 countries, will create with it. I think things that to look out for that are coming up next. We're launching Gemini Nano soon, which is going to be really useful for people developing on mobile. It's really focused on mobile. It's being launched in the Pixel 8 Pro. So that's where you'll see a lot of development. And we're going to add more multimodality use cases, more modalities, and more languages, etc., as we go along. So stay tuned.
I think I also saw a feature somewhere in the Google phone where you can easily adjust images and stuff, right? So if you weren't smiling at a picture, you could just say, "Oh, it's me not looking so happy," ching, and it'll just change the image to me looking very happy. So that's really crazy.
As of today, you don't have a bad side anymore, but every side's your good side.
So we don't need all the cameras anymore. That's amazing. We're looking forward to that. Make me 10 years younger as well.
Exactly.
Let's wrap it up. This was amazing. Thank you so much. It's super interesting. All the things you're doing at Google, Gemini. I love the sustainability part. The part where we've been talking about the power, how it's leveraged right now. And what you also said is you don't need the bigger models necessarily. You can already start smaller, and you don't, because I think one of the things I used to think is that you need a lot of data to work with AI, but I think it's you can already start small in the business, and you should start it because others are doing it, and else you will fall behind. And I want to thank you so much, and thank you. We have a little present for you, which I have right here.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here, Bart. It's always fun speaking with you.
This is actually only for people that are part of the Sprints and Sneakers family.
Ooh.
But, we made an exception for you. You saw us walking around in this sweater during the festival. And, now you have one too. And I hope to see you in it in the near future. And, thanks again.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. Very proud to be made an exception for. I'll wear this with pride. If you're ever in trouble, we have the technology to make it a different logo when I'm wearing it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Redefining Growth. We've been talking about business growth, sustainability, and making a positive impact on society. Please like and subscribe. There will be more exciting episodes coming. See you next time.